Good morning and welcome to Hawk Training's webinar on traineeship programs. My name's Oliver Hill. I'm Head of Business Development at Hawk Training, and today is very much an introductory to traineeships and specifically to Hawk Training's Traineeship Offer. I've got some slides to go through which really explain traineeships, about a bit of an understanding of what those programs are, the benefits to traineeship programs, and specifically how Hawk are delivering these programs, and then an opportunity for some Q&As. Please feel free to use the chat function as I go along. What I'll try to do is answer some of these as I go through some of the slides. So the case for traineeships now. Why have Hawk Training gotten involved in traineeships at this specific time? Well, as you know, obviously the pandemic has made a major hit on unemployment, and specifically for 16 to 24-year-olds, which is now unemployment is at 14.2% between September and November 2020, and has always definitely increased since the last lockdown, up from 11.3% a year prior. Talking to some colleagues within connection services and careers, they really very much see that the unemployment for 16 to 24-year-olds is a time bomb waiting to happen, as unemployment is still going to be high moving into the normal natural time when learners are leaving school and college, and moving into September, with an acknowledgement that the job market is not going to be as buoyant as it has been over the last few years, and as such that number is just going to go only one way, which is an increase. Currently there are 250,000 fewer 16 to 24-year-olds in employment than were before the start of the pandemic, and more people leaving education. Obviously we know that there'll be more competition for jobs as a whole. So the traineeships, so as we may be aware, traineeships have been available for many years. And what the government, specifically the Chancellor, did was he has stated that he wants 30,000 new traineeships as a way for young people to get into employment, specifically those young people who don't have experience of working, or have limited experience, or are not ready to preparing to get into the workplace, but just need effectively some tweaking to get into the workplace. With there being such high demand for jobs, and a lot of people who are being made redundant who are highly experienced, they are being picked to the post to get those roles, and even some of the entry level roles. So it really is giving these individuals an opportunity to develop and thrive in a work placement environment before being able to either retain within that organisation or go and apply for another job. So as such, the Education Skill Funding Agency have revamped the funding rules to make a more flexible provision to support learners in transition. So for example, they've removed the barrier that was having work placements that were a minimum 100 hours and reduced that for 70 hours for 19 to 24-year-olds. They've extended the eligibility criteria, so now that persons who are level 3, so A-level students, or other level 3 qualifications can go onto a traineeship, acknowledging that those people may have good high-level qualifications or high-level qualifications, but don't have the experience that enables them to be able to get into employment. And they're looking, and they've also added an employer incentive of £1,000 per learner for up to 10 trainees per region. It's given to an employer who supports learners through that full 70-hour work placement. So the basics: what is a traineeship? It's a target audience aimed at 16 to 24-year-olds who are qualified up to and including level 3, have little or no work experience, but do not require intensive support to become job ready. So the individuals who are looking to become onto traineeship programs are not those that need extensive support over many months, or are hard to reach, or have a plethora of problems that are stopping them getting into the job market. So the phrase I like to use is tweaking. These people could be absolute phenomenal assets within an organisation. They're getting picked to the post. They just need some one-to-one additional support. They need that experience to help build up their CV and have an understanding of the world of work, and be able to develop in and be nurtured into what could be a fantastic asset for organisations. So the core functionality of a traineeship in terms of program content is work preparation delivered by the provider, work experience, placement of a minimum of 70 hours, and maths, English and digital skills a progression if required for those who do not have A to C in English or maths or grades 4 to 9. So the benefits of the traineeship to provide you with an opportunity to engage with enthusiastic young people who can bring new ideas to your business, provide you the opportunity to develop skills and experience of young people from your local community, helping businesses to grow and develop loyal and talented workforce. Traineeships also can support existing members of staff, maybe those that are looking to develop into either into management or those to develop skills in mentoring and coaching by putting one of those staff as that learner's mentor that can help nurture and develop traineeships over a period of time, and ensuring that those traineeships are as simple as possible to engage with and can be tailored specifically to the needs of your business through a plethora of different e-learning modules, or using those coaches who will support those learners in the workplace to develop specific skills that are needed. So looking specifically at our traineeship offer, we were successful in the recent Pan-London tender for traineeships, and as such we've been awarded a contract for 19 to 24-year-olds within the Borough of London. It's aimed at London-based employers and London-based learners. We're looking at 8 to 12 weeks in length. The minimum of traineeship can be 7 weeks. The actual maximum of traineeship can be is 1 year. However, we think that 8 to 12 weeks is about right in terms of supporting an individual, giving them those experience, especially the individuals we're looking to engage with, those that do only need tweaking. Because of work placement is not paid, we don't want to extend that work placement beyond that kind of 70 to 100 hour mark as a maximum. We think that that's the right place to be, especially in London as the job market starts to become more buoyant. 1 week intense support work placement at the front end, understanding that work placement, understanding the organisation that they're going into before developing into an induction in the workplace, and that work placement of approximately 6 to 7 weeks. Our coaches then will support throughout that provision, both with face-to-face sessions, either online, obviously in current COVID climate, weekly for 2 to 3 hours per week, and then online learning, including employability skills and functional skills if that learner needs that support. The objective of the traineeship is not to achieve, don't need to achieve functional skills, but it is about progressing that learner up and developing them in the workplace so they are ready to achieve functional skills if needed, when they progress onto either an apprenticeship or take functional skills separately and ongoing through into employment. The principle of all of our traineeship programs is working with employers who have future employment needs in any sector, in any type of job. What we are very keen to do is to ensure that the traineeship program that we have is about getting people into jobs and not about just giving people those experience opportunities, but it is about their opportunities, and we can, and that this allows that person to have the opportunity to apply for those roles. So looking at our model delivery, obviously there's a lot of information on this one slide, but it does break down the kind of teaching and learning the learners would take and the topics that are involved, including the learners' rights and responsibilities, British values, health and safety, self-assessment and awareness, and then developing into those pre-employment skills that the learners may or may not have, but we will be able to bolster as part of our program, including interview skills, CV writing, and core skills like building teamwork and relationships as part of the traineeship program. As you see here, we've built in within the work placement activities some ideas around specifically what the employer will support the learner with as part of the traineeship program in the workplace, including the induction to the employer department overview, the employer's mission, values and culture, and we will work with every employer in terms of building that program together in that individualized package to ensure that learner maximizes the opportunities that are available within the workplace. So as an expectations of the employer as part of a traineeship program, we would need you to assign a mentor to that individual trainee who will be able to, that trainee will be able to go to that mentor and ask them questions, and obviously that mentor will be able to support in terms of assigning work so they get a valid experience, enable training to get that wide experience of working environment, get involved in work and understand why the work is being done. Although optional, we would expect trainees' lunch and travel as applicable to be paid for. Obviously, they're not being paid as part of the placement, so it's ensuring that they obviously are where travel does need to be paid for, that is completed. And we always suggest to put a budget aside for lunch as well. And then detailed structured feedback to the learner to ongoing and at the end of each of the placements. And we will put a structure in place for that, for you to give that feedback. Commit to a minimum of 10 hours work placement per week. That ensures that as a minimum, the work placement is completed within 7 to 8 weeks. And at the end of the traineeship, commit to either a job interview, apprenticeship placement, or exit interview. And we will work with you to identify where there are opportunities or what the next progression route for that individual learner is. In terms of the incentive, as I said earlier on, the government have put an incentive in place. The incentive currently runs until the end of July and is available for employers who take on a work placement trainee aged 16 to 18 years for a minimum of 70 hours. They receive an incentive payment of £1,000 per learner for up to 10 learners per region upon achievement of the work placement, and employer incentives are available, as said, for work placements that take place and is completed between the 1st of September 2020 and up to the 31st of July 2021. The incentive is intended to support any additional costs of supporting that learner. So, for example, some of our organisations may require a DBS check, so that would include that, PPE, and also those travel and lunch costs. The money is not audited by the ESFA, but it is paid directly by the government into to the employer via a specially set up portal for traineeship programs. So things to consider when you are looking to start a traineeship program. Ensure there are pre-agreed content and objectives between your company, Hawke, and the trainees, so you're making that program as individualized as possible, and you know specifically what both Hawke and the employer's expectations are. The work experience placement should be long enough to allow for the development of new skills and behaviours in the workplace. So that's based on Hawke completing that information, advice and guidance with the learner, identifying what those specific needs are and working with you to build that program together. A structured opportunity for the young person to match to their areas of interest and aspiration. So again, as part of that information, advice and guidance that Hawke do, is we ensure that we are matching the right learner with the right program. We will be putting interviews in place for learners as well. So it's not a case of we just simply will be placing individuals into employment without that employer doing an interview or screening in the first place, but ensuring that is only light touch. Employers are not required to pay the young people, but as said before, we are encouraging expenses to be paid. And trainees should receive coaching and training from an identified mentor in the business, receiving regular constructive feedback as part of the programme. Some of you may have heard of Kickstart. That is another programme that's currently running by the government, and I thought it would be sensible to put a difference between the two programmes up here. So the target audiences are the same, both in terms of traineeship and Kickstart, although for the Kickstart, the 16 to 24-year-olds have to be on universal credit to be able to access that programme. The length of programmes are different. So although a traineeship could last up to a year, actually most traineeships are 8 to 12 weeks. However, Kickstart is mandated at 6 months. A learner, as soon as they start Kickstart, cannot come off of Kickstart. They are on there for 6 months, and they must be working a minimum of 25 hours per week, where traineeship is 70 hours over the whole duration of the programme. Employer incentives are more on Kickstart at £1,500 per learner, but the employer therefore also goes into a contract to ensure they must offer pre-employment support either themselves or they have to pay someone else to do that, either, for example, a training provider. Wages is not waged. Kickstart is a unique one, is that wages and contributions are paid for by the government, either national minimum wage or national living wage. And in terms of provider support, traineeships are directly managed and delivered by a training provider, but by Kickstart, there is no provider support in place unless you, as an employer, pay for it. Progression can progress into a full-time job for traineeships, but for progression for Kickstart, the learner must finish 6 months prior to be able to progress. It's currently a bone of contention within the industry, is that learners can't progress out of that Kickstart onto an apprenticeship earlier than that 6 month period. and the outcome for traineeships is a job, an apprenticeship, or an exit interview. But through the Kickstart, there is no requirement to retain staff, which is also something within the industry, which is a bone of contention. At this point, I don't know if there are any questions that you want to either put into the chat or come on and ask as part of this webinar. Okay, so next steps, really, if you're looking to utilise the traineeship programme for all trainees, to have that initial conversation with ourselves, identify what your individual needs are, identify the types of roles that you're looking to support traineeships through, what those progression routes look like within your organisation, and then from that, we will be able to identify if we're the right provider for you to be able to support you. I'm sure we will be. For further information, please do head to our website, which has lots of information about traineeship programs, or obviously directly contact your representative at Hawk Training or myself, Oliver at hawktraining.com. I'd like to say thank you very much for joining us on this webinar.